Hi guys, it's Dr. Lauren from Vital Health Chiropractic in Lara, and today I'm reaching out to all of our parents, those with young children who are regularly participating in sports. This is highly important information and it's for the well-being of your children as it relates to head trauma and concussive injuries. There was a study in 2015 that talked about two subsets, essentially two groups that come from a head trauma. 90%, the first group, will recover and be asymptomatic within about 10 days of a head trauma. Now, while the other group, 10%, will continue to be symptomatic after 10 days in what we call post-concussive syndrome. Now, the biggest concern here is that for both of these groups, in that first 20 to 30 days following the initial head trauma, there's an increased risk of what we call secondary impact syndrome. So basically, from the first knock, the brain is a little bit more fragile, and then once it gets knocked again, it takes less impact and less force to create bigger effects, greater symptoms, and a longer duration of those symptoms as well. So if you have children that are regularly participating in sports, stay tuned, because I'm going to talk more about concussive injuries, how you can identify it in your children, and what our top tips are so that you can make sure you're managing it effectively and efficiently for the best outcome for your child. So thanks for sticking around. It's a really tricky subject talking about concussive injuries, and one that as chiropractors we see unfortunately regularly in our practice. What's concerning about these types of injuries is possibly the lack of management about it. So when we see kids get a bit of a knock, they fall down, might be a bit disorientated at the start, and then they're right to play and go back out. Now, when we start to look at these injuries, sometimes it can take time for the actual symptoms to start to come out. And as I mentioned before, there's that secondary impact syndrome. So if we get a little knock in the first quarter of a typical sport, and then they're knocked again later, then the injury is going to be far, far worse. So our first thing is to get a child off the ground after any knock to the head and to have them assessed by your coach, your first aider, or your team trainer. Now, there's an assessment tool called a SCAT-3 that you can find online just by Googling, and it's basically an outline that will explain what to look for and how to manage an injury in a child, so you can see to what severity have they been injured. So that would be one of our biggest things to be mindful of. It is too easy for kids, particularly teenagers, to go, oh, I'm okay, I really need to get out and keep playing. It's not good for their health long term. So get them off, get them assessed. Now, if it's a really serious knock and you are noticing some changes, you might be aware of the following. They could have neck pain, headaches, dizziness, tingling in the arms or legs. They might be a little disoriented, a bit confused. They might be unsteady on their feet. You might notice later in the day that they're a bit drowsy, or they might be difficult to wake up. They might have lost some appetite. These are all things that as parents and trainers and coaches that you really need to be mindful of and watching in any child that's been in an injury, an impact injury that knocked their head. What's really concerning to us as chiropractors is, one, certainly the head injury itself, because any force to the head or knock to the head, we need to be mindful that is there any underlying bleeding, contusion, any issue there. So that's always important to get checked out from your local GP, your local hospital, to make sure that there's nothing sinister going on from that. Now, what's important to us as chiropractors is the impact of the neck from the injury as well. So a knock to the head is also going to create a knock or a force through the neck. So not only does the child get an impact through the head and a head trauma, but they get a whiplash-like injury as well to the neck. Now, what health practitioners are starting to look at is that there's this relationship between the symptoms of the whiplash injury and symptoms of the head injury that are very similar. So headaches, dizziness, a little bit of fatigue or drowsiness. These sorts of things that they're going, well, is it the head injury or is it the whiplash? Or more importantly, is it both? So it means that we need to get the head cleared, but then we also need to get the neck checked as well. So in terms of my top tips in managing an injury like a head trauma and concussion injury, number one is get them off the field. Number two is get them assessed immediately through the team, and if it's severe enough or if you're concerned about it and they're showing any of those symptoms, get to your local GP or hospital to get things further checked out. Now the next step is to go and see your health provider like a chiropractor, a physiotherapist, an osteopath, somebody that deals regularly with neck injuries that can assess properly the function and integrity of their cervical spine. So this part here, to make sure that there isn't any major injury there as well, and to correct it as needed. Once you've got your child home and you've checked all of these things out, then we need to be very mindful of their nutrition. The brain is heavily dense of water and also of fats. So it's really important that you keep your child hydrated and you encourage a diet, particularly in that immediate 48, 72 hours, that are high in really good quality healthy fats. So we're talking nuts and seeds, avocado, nice fresh oily fish, so tuna, salmon, anything that's going to increase that fat level in them that's going to help nourish the brain. Now you might also look at something like a magnesium supplement that's going to support the muscles and relaxing the muscles through their system, and also a fish oil supplement. Now that will have all the good fats in it, the omegas there, to support the inflammatory process and also the brain. The final tip, and one of the important ones going forward from a head injury, is adequate rest. Now we've all heard kids, oh mum, I'm so bored, dad, I'm so bored, can't I go back to school, can't I go back to football or netball or whatever their sport might be. Rest is crucial in this time, and because again of that secondary impact, and it's an injury, it's a head injury. And when we have these head injuries and the whiplash injury, then not only are we affecting short term on their physical function and their coordination, but their cognitive function as well. So the better we manage that initially, the better their outcomes will be, and the sooner they will get back into their sports and school. However, if we don't look after this, then it's just going to hang around for a lot longer. So when we talk about proper rest, we also mean decreasing stimulants, so bright lights, loud sounds, and screen time. No child wants to hear this. Unfortunately, phones, iPads, tablets, TV, and computers all have the same blue light in it that stimulates our nervous system. So it is vital that in that initial couple of days you completely get them off screen time, and then going forward from there you limit it to 20 minutes or less at a time until their symptoms completely settle down. Now, differs for each injury. It could be a matter of 10 days. If you're in that initial group of 90%, it could be longer. And so you need to be monitoring this with your health providers and your health team and managing it appropriately. So if you have any questions, or you've had a child that's had a head injury and you're concerned about their well-being and the long-term implications of that, because we do know now that it is associated long term with things like depression, anxiety, and memory loss. So it's important we manage it well now. So call our team and feel free to have a chat with us, and we're only too happy to help so that we can keep your kids on the court or on the ground so that they can keep playing the sports they love and keep developing themselves physically and cognitively so they go brilliantly at school as well. We hope this has been helpful. Any further questions, give us a call. Bye guys.